Hey there, I am D. Frankenstein, the name that is often associated with a monster. And not just any monster, but something that was created with science. Though the book is a bit more obscure about how the monster was created. Anyway, many movies have been made about Frankenstein and his creation, but very few have actually stayed true to Mary Shelley's original novel. And who better than the narrator from Walking with Dinosaurs, Kenneth Branagh, to take a shot at making a more faithful adaptation. They tried the same with Dracula, and it was a huge success. So why not do the same for Frankenstein? I'll tell you why. Because that Dracula movie was horrible! So how can this possibly be any better? Why don't I stop procrastinating and just begin the review? So we start with a narration, which I assume is supposed to be Mary Shelley herself that we're hearing.
To think of a story which would speak to the mysterious fears of our nature and awaken thrilling horror. One to make the reader dread to look around, to curdle the blood and quicken the beatings of the heart.
Branagh, it's Frankenstein. We kind of already knew that. This is followed by a text scrolling which... which is basically telling us that ignorance is bliss, and the rest of the movie will tell us why. And I thought the opening to that I Am Legend movie was stupid. We're then introduced to this captain that was mentioned in the opening scroll, who's also the main narrator in the novel. They eventually get stranded, there are some talks about mutiny, until eventually... I'm all for surprises. Really, I am. I mean, that roar we heard, it made us expect to see the creature, but instead we see some guy. A nice twist, but do you expect us to believe that this roar we heard came from him?
You bring your men and your weapons and follow me. No! Stay where you are! I give the orders here.
Oh, so it was the creature after all. Yeah, I know, I'm spoiling it for you now. But seriously, even if you haven't read the novel, well, or seen the classic movies, we all know the story anyway, so...
They're already dead.
If you already knew they can't survive your creation, why ask for their help in the first place? So after a brief banter, the man finally says his name's Victor Frankenstein. We then flash back to Frankenstein's past, where we see him grow up as a young boy in Geneva.
This is Elizabeth. She's coming to live with us. You must think of her as your own sister.
Yeah, you might want to forget those words ASAP. So eventually his mother gives birth to a second son, but dies doing so.
Oh, Mother. You should never have died. No one need ever die. I will stop this.
In other words, he's not just some mad scientist who hopes to create life. No, in this movie, he's a mama's boy. Now I don't know whether to laugh or cry.
So how do you feel, Elizabeth?
Alive!
I see. The book isn't very clear on how the creature was created, so instead of thinking your own way, you just decide to rip off the old Universal movies. Eventually, Frankenstein admits his love to Elizabeth.
You must think of her as your own sister.
He then starts college. Hang on! 1793? When did this movie open again? 1794. Keep that in mind for a moment. So here in Ingolstadt, he gets himself a conveniently spacious dorm room. Just go with it.
Ah, motto. Easily forgotten by you young men in a hurry. You must learn, therefore, in the first place, to submit yourselves to the established laws of physical reality.
But surely, Professor, you don't intend we disregard more philosophical approaches?
Philosophical?
Those which stir the imagination as well as the intellect, as in Paracelsus, for example.
Oh, Paracelsus. An arrogant and foolish Swiss.
Albertus Magnus.
His nonsense was exploded 500 years ago.
Cornelius Agrippa.
Do not study the ravings of lunatics and alchemists hundreds of years in their graves, because their kind of amateur, fanatical, fantastical speculation does not heal bodies or save lives. Only science can do that.
This must be what a showdown between Dawkins and Comfort would look like. Here, Frankenstein is introduced to another mad scientist, portrayed by John Cleese, who apparently has tried similar experiments before, which he then demonstrates to Frankenstein. In other words, Frankenstein did not make any discoveries of his own in this version. Instead, the necessary knowledge was spoon-fed to him. If this is supposed to make the character more tragic, I fail to see how.
We can create a being that will not grow old or sicken, one that will be stronger than us, better than us.
Okay.
No. How close did you get, Professor?
Too close. It resulted in abomination.
What? 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 You mean to say there's another creature out there? If yes, what happened to it? Nothing? No other mention of it? Or for that matter, do we get to see this quote-unquote abomination? Also, if it was such an abomination, why bother showing your work to anyone else who's clearly not alright up here? It's your funeral. I was being sarcastic! Those of you with an eye for detail will recognize this attacker as Robert De Niro, who will become one of the many men who will be used to create the creature. And I'll admit, this is brilliant. I mean, we actually get to know these people before they become the creature. Unfortunately, Cleese and De Niro are the only ones who actually get to know. And even then, in case of the one, only briefly, and in case of the other, let's just say that for a brilliant man, he's very stupid. He might have gotten away with that in a Monty Python sketch, but that's not what this movie is. Well, supposed to be anyway. So eventually, Frankenstein finds Cleese's notes and we get a montage of him collecting the body parts he needs for creating the monster. And... eh? Huh? What? Alright, stop! Where'd he get all this stuff? I thought having a Swiss bank account was a modern phrase. So the creature... eels, really? Well, eventually lives. Yes, that's the thing we're supposed to be afraid of, everybody. A monster that can barely stand, let alone move. So Frankenstein abandons the creature. Okay, that's kind of...
You fool, Victor Frankenstein of Geneva. How could you know what you'd unleashed?
Is Frankenstein flashing back to this guy? If so, when exactly did this guy tell him all that? And why would he confide with that guy about the experiments? In a Shakespearean play it might have worked. But here it's misplaced. And even if it wasn't, what the hell is he talking about?
How was it pieced together? In bits of thieves, bits of murderers, evil stitched to evil, stitched to evil. Do you really believe this thing will thank you for its monstrous birth?
Yeah? These people live again, why wouldn't they be thankful? Also, besides the guy who killed Cleese, what makes this guy think they're all thieves, murderers, and whatnot? Too many things about this moment make no sense! So the creature leaves, is being chased out of town, and Frankenstein is told that with the cholera epidemic, very few people will make it out alive, which Frankenstein takes to mean that the creature won't survive either. Weren't you the one who said...
We can create a being that will not grow old or sicken, one that will be stronger than us, better than us.
Put down the works of Shakespeare, pick up a dictionary and look up the word consistency! We then find the creature, who eventually finds himself some shelter where he spends the rest of his time spying on a family where the parents teach the kids to read, write and speak, and subsequently teach the creature. Heartwarming. If I had a heart. But something about this bugs me. Remember, this whole movie flashes back to the year 1793, so the present day is 1794. In other words, Frankenstein learned what he needed, got all the equipment he needed, conducted all the necessary experiments, and the creature learned how to read, write and speak all in 1 year! Does Brennick have any sense of time? Eventually he's found and beaten to leave, but the creature finds a flower, don't ask, that's another story, turns back to the family who have... already gone? Huh. They must be Barry Allen's ancestors. Yeah, now you'll think twice before you insist upon calling the creature Frankenstein. So the creature crosses the mountains looking for his creator, where the first thing he does is murder Frankenstein's younger brother. Off screen! Why is it that in movies, if and when a kid is killed, it's always off screen? Because it would be too disturbing? If yes, so what? It's a horror movie, it's supposed to be disturbing! So the creature, somehow, managed to place the blame on the maid who is later executed.
Down, sir, we can bury her in the morning.
Thank you, Claude.
Get to bed.
The sea of ice. I will meet you there.
And although he sticks out like a sore thumb, the other guy doesn't spot him or anything? Consistency, you should really look it up. As instructed, Frankenstein heads for the Sea of Ice. Over already? Ah well. Oh, wait, he survived. Sorry, my bad.
You do speak. Yes, I speak.
Yeah, but you already knew that. For a guy who creates life, you have a poor memory. The gist of the scene is that the creature asks Frankenstein to make him a female companion. Which is weird, considering that... took quite a risk there, creature. But what really strikes me as odd is that the creature makes no reference to his history. Remember, this whole movie is a flashback. So if the creature doesn't tell him anything about himself, then how would Frankenstein even know about the family, or how the creature learned to read, or, well, anything? So Frankenstein marries Elizabeth.
You must think of her as your own sister.
Excuse me while I puke.
Who is this man, sir? How shall we know him?
Believe me, you'll know him.
Xenophobia. It really works. Yeah, where's a Keyblade when you need one? So we get another montage wherein he tries to revive Elizabeth, which he manages, of course. Huh, this must be why Tim Burton married her. But unlike the creature, Elizabeth, for whatever reason, actually remembers who she was, and doesn't like what she is, so she freaks out and torches down the place. And of course, Frankenstein is so rich he can afford to live in a place that easily catches fire. And thus Frankenstein's story ends. As well as his life. Yes, the whole movie was a story within a story. Incidentally, in the original novel, Frankenstein tells his story to the captain. Within that story, he tells about his meeting with the creature, who tells his story to Frankenstein, within which the creature tells the story of some Middle Eastern girl. So we have ourselves a story, within a story, within a story, within a story. Suddenly, Inception doesn't seem all that new anymore, does it? So the crew eventually meets the creature themselves, remarkably accepting him.
Why do you weep? He was my father.
So, you hated him! Ugh. Who cares, the end's coming. So they have themselves a cremation, but then the ice breaks. They all flee to the ship, but the creature stays behind and goes with his creator.
Where to now, Captain?
Remember, don't follow your dreams, don't set yourselves any goals. And even if you do, don't try to make it there. Why? Because this movie tells you to. This was Dee, and if you don't mind, I'm off to have a friend of mine figure out what shade of grey this shirt is.